Novitas Solutions, a CMS contractor, welcomes you to the On-Demand Education Series. This on-demand tutorial is a general summary that explains certain aspects of the Medicare program, but it is not a legal document. The official Medicare program provisions are contained in the relevant laws, regulations, and rulings. The information enclosed was current at the time it was presented. Medicare policy changes frequently. Links to the source documents have been provided within the document for your reference. This presentation was prepared as a tool to assist providers and is not intended to grant rights or impose obligations. Throughout this module, you will see a citation number behind certain elements of information as shown in the example below. This citation number coincides with the transcript document positioned next to the Play Now icon you selected on the Training Videos Click and Play page on the Novitas Solutions website. The citation and associated hyperlink to the resource described in the module will be found on the transcript under footnotes for each slide. Novitas Solutions On-Demand Education Series presents Understanding the Medicare Remittance Advice Part A, Part 2. Financial adjustments found on the remittance advice. The Medicare Remittance Advice. The Remittance Advice, or RA, is a notice of payment issued by Medicare Administrative Contractors, also known as MACs, as a companion to Medicare claim payments. The purpose of the Remittance Advice is to explain the payments and any adjustments made during claim adjudication. The Remittance Advice provides itemized claim processing information, which includes, but is not limited to, reimbursement totals, deductible and coinsurance amounts, claim adjustments and denials, refund notifications, explanation of non-covered services, alerts for missing or incorrect data, or identification of claims withholding due to Medicare Secondary Payer, MSP, or penalty situations. In this module, which is the second installment of a two-part series, we will discuss some items that are specific to financial adjustments and how they appear on the remittance advice. Withholding. Payment withholding occurs when the Medicare Administrative Contractor has determined that the provider to whom payments were made has been overpaid. If it is determined that a provider has been overpaid, the Medicare Administrative Contractor is required to notify the provider in writing of the intention to withhold payments, whether in whole or in part. The provider will have an opportunity to submit a statement as to why the withhold shall not be put into effect. The written notification provides the necessary instructions on how to submit a rebuttal or a redetermination through the appeals process. Reasons for withholding. A payment withhold may be necessary due to general processing-related situations or due to an imposed penalty. Some general withholding situations may occur due to claim adjustments or cancels, overpayments, an affiliate withhold which may apply to a related entity with the same tax ID number, and/or settlements including liens or liabilities. Some penalty withholding situations may occur due to not filing the annual Medicare cost report or MCR timely, not filing the quarterly credit balance report timely, a late enrollment revalidation, or a third-party payment due to a civil monetary penalty adjustment or skilled nursing facility, also known as a SNF, sanction ban. Providers must contact the State Department of Health and Human Services to resolve. Withholding example. This example demonstrates how an amount associated with a payment withhold is reported on the remittance advice. Internal Revenue Service, Department of Treasury withholding. Another type of withhold you may see is related to unpaid debts owed to other federal agencies. These types of withholds are not related to Medicare claim payments, but could be related to something like an educational loan, for example. The Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997, Section 1024, and the Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act of 2008 authorizes the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, also known as CMS, to reduce certain federal payments to allow collection of overdue tax and non-tax related debts through a levy on certain federal payments. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services may reduce tax-related debts by 15% of the payable amount or reduce non-tax related debts by 100% of the payable amount. These levies are continuous until the debt is paid in full or other arrangements are made to satisfy the debt. Should one of these adjustments occur, your Medicare Remittance Advice, or MRA, will reflect the withhold as a federal payment levy or as a non-tax FPLP and will provide the 10-digit phone number for the agency that the debt is related to, either the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, or the Department of Treasury. We'll show you what this looks like on the next slide. Please note that under current privacy rules and regulations, only the Internal Revenue Service or the Department of Treasury may discuss the tax or non-tax related issue with you. Therefore, if you have questions, contact the agency at the provided phone number instead of contacting Novitas. Tax Levy Withholding Example. This example demonstrates how an amount associated with a tax-related debt is reported on the remittance advice. The amount is reported as a federal payment levy, and the 10-digit phone number for the Internal Revenue Service has been provided. Remember, you'll want to contact the agency at the phone number provided, as Novitas cannot assist with questions related to the federal payment levy. Balance forward. A balance forward, also known as a forwarding balance, is a balance that is brought forward from a prior remittance advice. This happens when there is an identified overpayment and the debt amount is more than the payment amount on the remittance advice on a given day. For example, you identified a claim with incorrect billing. You adjust the claim and it results in a $10,000 overpayment. There is only $5,000 revenue on the day your adjustment finalizes. $5,000 is not enough to satisfy the $10,000 overpayment, so the remaining balance of $5,000 will need to be forwarded to the next remittance advice with revenue. The outstanding balance will continue to move forward until the debt is satisfied. Balance forward example. This example demonstrates how a balance that carried forward is reported on the remittance advice. Keep in mind, if there is not enough revenue to satisfy the amount due, the balance will carry forward to the next remittance advice. Adjustment to balance. An adjustment to balance is one of the more confusing types of financial adjustments that you may see on the remittance advice. This is because an adjustment to balance amount looks like a recoupment on the remittance advice, but a recoupment has not yet taken place. Adjustment to balance amounts are overpayments commonly identified through post-pay reviews, which are subject to Section 935 of the Medicare Prescription Drug Improvement and Modernization Act of 2003, also known as limitation on recoupment. As this is a high-level review of financial adjustments on the remittance advice, please refer to the Medicare Learning Network, or MLN, article MM6183 for additional information regarding the process, including appeal and rebuttal information, how to stop or request immediate recoupment, and which overpayments are and are not subject to limitation on recoupment. An adjustment subject to limitation on recoupment appears on the remittance advice the date the adjustment finalizes. However, recoupment for these overpayments generally begin 41 days after the date the claim adjustment finalized. Although recoupment has not yet taken place, the adjustment to balance amount will show as a negative amount. This is because the claim adjustment has been identified as an overpayment, which is a debt due back to the Medicare program and thus a negative amount. The important thing to keep in mind is that when an amount is reported in the adjustment to balance field, it has not yet been recouped, and the amount will need to be added back into the net provider payment to balance the remittance advice for that date. When an amount associated with an adjustment subject to limitation on recoupment begins to recoup on a later date, it will appear as 935 withholding on the remittance advice. Adjustment to balance example. This example demonstrates how an amount that needs adjusted to balance is reported on the remittance advice. Take note of how the adjustment to balance appears as a negative amount. Knowing that amounts reported in this field need to be added back into the net provider payment will avoid confusion and balance the remittance advice for that date. Refunds. Another type of financial adjustment you may see on the remittance advice is a refund, which is reimbursement that is being returned or credited to you. A refund amount will appear on the remittance advice as either a refund or a settlement payment. Let's talk about scenarios that would issue a refund and how it would be reported. One example is when an appeal is found favorable and the money was recouped prior to the appeal being found favorable. This scenario would be reflected as a refund on the remittance advice. Another example would be when it is determined money is due back to the provider upon final cost report settlement. This scenario would be reflected as a settlement payment on the remittance advice. Now, let's take a look at each of these scenarios on the remittance advice. Refund example. This example demonstrates how an amount reported as a refund appears on the remittance advice. Settlement payment example. This example demonstrates how an amount reported as a settlement payment appears on the remittance advice. Thank you for attending. We encourage you to visit our website, www.novitas-solutions.com, to access additional resources and participate in our educational events. Visit our education and training page to access the most current Medicare education.